Welcome everyone. This is Harshal Desai from Elapse Technomedia Private Limited. I am the part of editorial team at Ego magazine, which is published by Elapse Technomedia Private Limited. Today we are here to have an exclusive conversation with Ms. Prativa Mohpatra, who is currently working as Vice President Sales for IBM India and South Asia. Welcome, ma'am. We welcome you for the exclusive innovation talk today with us. We are really very glad to have you here for this conversation.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashok.
I would like to before I introduce Elapse Technomedia, I would like to read out. Would like to introduce Ms. Mohpatra to our audience. Ms. Mohpatra is responsible for driving sales of IBM's end-to-end portfolio of solutions and services for its clients across the region. She has over 24 years of experience as a business leader with expertise in sales, business development, consulting, and tech-led transformation in India and Asia Pacific region. She began her career with PwC as a business and technology consultant and has led sales and delivery of sales projects in India, South Asia, and US. She joined IBM in 2002 through the PwC acquisition and has held numerous roles in IBM's consulting business, which including leadership roles for cognitive artificial intelligence solutions, enterprise applications, and applications management services. During this tenure, she has built and grown businesses and consulted with large public sector organizations as well as cross-section of corporates in the manufacturing, finance, and telecom sector. With this, I once again welcome Ms. Mohpatra for the exclusive conversation, which has been started by Elapse Technomedia Private Limited. And we are very glad to know that under the innovation talk, Elapse Technomedia Private Limited is going to have some very exclusive conversation with different business leaders in India and globally. So once again, welcome, Ms. Mohpatra. We will start. We are really great, and we'll start with our first question to you. The subject for today's conversation is enabling organizations with emerging technologies to revive and reinvent, a very significant subject indeed. And we'd like to ask you that considering the present scenario, how do you see innovation, especially in advanced technologies like cloud, artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, carving the face of the future? Ms. Mohpatra.
Thanks, Harshal. And I'm delighted to be here. So you spoke about technologies like AI, cloud, blockchain. So these are really at the heart of the recovery and the revival for the businesses, as well as the economy as we speak today. And their adoption at scale and with speed is very vital for us to leap forward, right? We are at a tipping point in history where the impact of technology is so significant. It is completely transforming the way business is being done. And the digital transformation journeys have just accelerated now at an unprecedented pace.
Right.
Of course, before the pandemic, there were organizations, they were using it typically to expand their business, or only the high performers were trying to do this. But now the pandemic has made this change must and urgent for everyone, right? And hence, this speedy and strategic convergence of technologies like cloud, artificial intelligence, automation, IoT, and blockchain, these have the power to change the business models, reinvent the processes, and of course, completely reimagine the way we are working, right? Let's talk a little bit about cloud, right?
Yes.
And continuity, correct? So I look at the continuity in 4 ways, like business continuity, education continuity, governance continuity, and life continuity per se, right?
Right.
So business continuity, The speed and agility to deploy the infrastructure and the solutions on cloud has actually made things possible. Remote working at scale, uh, rapid supply chain alterations in business models, both for the essential goods as well as by the e-com companies, have actually helped business continuity on because of cloud. Same education continuity. The remote learning was made real. Educators shifted to virtual classrooms. Students shifted to, the mobile ways of doing stuff. Education continuity. Life continuity is for cities like most people. They stayed afloat because of the e-com platforms, the social engagements through these social engagement platforms, entertainment to millions of people through all the streaming that happened. So that's life continuity, and of course governance continuity. We had our political leaders, our state governments, our local bodies, all scaling up super fast because there were cloud solutions, right? And of course, there is an IDC survey which says more than 56% of the companies will embrace cloud as the new normal, right?
Yes.
So that's like how cloud has come in. Then talk about artificial intelligence, right? Many governments across the globe, at least I know of 25 odd, which have used, the assistants and chatbots for powering citizens with COVID-19 information, right?
Yes.
In India, per se, we as IBM have worked with IMR and with the Andhra Pradesh government to provide early and quick information to citizens instead of waiting. We all know there was a dearth of individuals to support people, but that's where AI came into play. AI came into play in terms of researchers. The entire, figuring out what this new vaccine is all about. So lots of data churning had to happen. That's where AI came into play.
Yes.
Similarly, in India, of course, this innovation is thriving, and I believe about 250% growth of AI adoption we will see. So that's how the second chain, and of course, talk about blockchain, right? Blockchain, I'll give you an example. For the entire shipping industry, right? IBM and Merck, we have what we call trade lens. And that really, this platform allows half of the world's oceans, containers, cargoes to be as part of the supply chain, right? And in India, for example, we have companies like JM Bakshi and Adani Ports who are part of this solution. Similar solution, IBM Food Trust, which keeps foods fresh. It connects the producers, suppliers, manufacturers to be able to track the supply chain. So that's how the innovation in all these technologies has happened. And I think this is just waiting to accelerate like this.
Right. Thank you so much. Indeed, a very insightful information you have shared with us regarding the artificial intelligence, the scope of cloud in private and government sector. So with businesses, education, and even the government operations going online, is the average Indian population prepared for a complete digital transformation? And how is IBM's contribution to boost India's digital transformation? If you can share some thought on this.
Yeah, so I think for digital transformation, there are three pillars, right? First is the infrastructure itself,
Right.
Then is the right skills and talent to use that infrastructure. And finally, the mindset change. It's a cultural and mindset change. Suddenly, you are becoming digital. So there are three pillars. Let's talk one after the other, right? As far as the digital infrastructure is concerned, of course, over the last few years in India, with the digital mission, Digital India, the strong internet backbone, growth in the mobile users, that infrastructure has been there. But now you see the fast forward actions on 5G. You see so many MNCs now suddenly investing big time in infrastructure. So I see the infrastructure is coming to shape for us to use. And of course, we have more than almost as many as our population, almost 1.2 billion telecom subscribers. Though there is a urban-rural divide there, right? As the tele density for urban is about 160 per 100 people, while in rural it's about 60. So while the divide is there, but we do have huge tele density here to make that happen. So infrastructure, I feel we are getting. Coming to skills, and this is where I guess we have a lot of work to do. There is a huge skill divide, we all know, and I think there was a recent study, almost 40-50% of our graduates are unemployable because they don't have the right skills. And in the new world order, that becomes very important. How do we really get the working population skilled, but more so the citizens skilled? How do the students, the young homemakers, the people at home start learning, educating? So that is another pillar of education. How do you grow that? And of course, the businesses itself. How do they become more skilled in what they do? And even bank, the corporate sector. I understand there is about 16 odd million FSS, financial services skilled force, who in the next 5 years has to be completely reskilled. So there is a skilling need across various strata of the society to make happen that. And I guess that's where we as IBM are playing a big role, right? We are heavily into skilling, and at different levels. Let's start with schools. So we do have this introduction of AI into the CBSE curriculum.
Okay.
And from class 9 to class 12, this curriculum has been introduced along with CBSE, and is very structured around skills, around design thinking, computational thinking, around coding, underpinning, of course, the values of ethical AI. So that's one intervention. Another skill building is what we call the Skills Build Reignite, and that platform is actually for the entrepreneurs, right? So as more of these entrepreneurs come into the skill force, where will they suddenly learn the digital skills? So this is a platform, the Skills Build Reignite. It will have courseware and more personalized coaching for entrepreneurs to become skilled. Then, of course, we have a STEM program, right? The science and technology, and it's more, we drove it towards a girl child, but by now it's almost 2 lakh girls and 1 lakh boys. We will be educating them in science technology by 2022. Right?
Okay, great.
And of course, then there are similar programs like PTech and others. So that is where the skills and how we play. And the third and the most important, I said, is the mind change. Now, that in India as a country, how the mindset for digital transformation, I guess half the population are born on digital, I would say, the young millennials and the young people.
Yes,
and elder people, how that mindset will change. Is still work to do. I think the youngsters will teach their parents, and the parents will teach their grandparents. So I think that's how I look at our readiness. So I think we are getting there.
Right. Okay. One thing I would like to understand, how much you are focused on digitally empowering the rural population also. We have several programs going on currently. So if you talk about the, whether it's infrastructure or any kind of digital transformation activity, how much you are focused on the rural part of the country?
Yeah. So if one is actually going and landing up in rural, and are we handholding people, versus some of the programs I just mentioned, right? There is, and I'll talk about it a bit. For example, for the farmers, right? We have worked with Bank of Baroda, right? Okay. And there is a platform for the farmers, and they have started using it in a big way. It's called Baroda Kisan, right? So this is an agri-digital farmer engagement platform, right? One-stop shop solution that caters to the agricultural needs of the farmers, starting with farm equipment, anticipating the weather patterns, crop-related consultations, as well as financing and fiscal advice. So that's one intervention. Similarly, of course, the skills program that I mentioned to you, it's for 600 plus schools. So that's again going into the rural space, correct?
Okay.
Healthcare, we have something called a company called iCure, okay, and we collaborated with them, and they are making affordable, accessible healthcare in rural areas. And iCure is a social enterprise, and they have set up a chain of primary healthcare clinics where you can actually go, the frontline healthcare workers go to the villages, take certain pictures and stuff, and then it's feed it into the AI machinery, and the doctor sitting away from the locations can actually give quick advice. So these are some of the interventions which we are involved in as well.
Right. Okay. Now we'll talk about, we are seeing technologies taking center stage when it comes to any kind of innovation. So how do these organizations are ensuring good governance in this new digital era? What is the correlation?
Yeah, I think technology can be a force for good in helping us move through this pandemic only if it is trusted, right? The
Yes.
trust in technology becomes most important.
Yes.
So how this technology becomes trusted, and hence governance is a critical point here. And again, I see it in three ways. First of all, the right structures, whether it's organizations or governments, do we have the right structures in place for doing that? The second governance is around data, right? Because under data, what actually moves in this technology is data. So how robust the data governance is. It's a second big piece of governance. And the third topic on governance is how easy it is to do all of this, right? Controlled, but the ease of doing all of it. These are three ways in which we should look at governance. And structures, when we said in governments, of course, to make it effective, departments have to rationalize. Sometimes we have multiple government departments trying to do almost similar kind of stuff. So I know there is a lot of work towards rationalizing the purpose of this. For private organizations, it's about ownership of the governance. It's no longer with just the CIO or the CDO. The digital transformation can sit with a CMO, can sit with a CISO, can sit with CHRO. So that's a private organization. So that's the right structures to drive the digital programs. Coming to data, and data governance, I say, is the most important thing in digital transformation. We hear about security, privacy, all of it. And since data is fueling this digital transformation, and AI will then unlock that value, how do we really manage data governance? That should be a foundational priority of every organization, and then our government, all of us. And again, data is what will be the competitive advantage between two companies or two entities. So the governance around data is an important area, and we are seeing a lot of work happening there. The third pillar is how easy do we make it for people to use all of this? And that's, for governments, it's like ease of doing business, I would say. And for private companies, it's about transforming from the old ways of doing your work to the new ways. So that are the areas of governance. And I'm working from home, but do I have the right security, privacy settings? Is everything?
Yes.
Those. So that's how the governance should be looked at as a three-pronged, I would say.
Right. So when we talk about data and data governance, the security aspect also need to be addressed and discussed, right? Technology comes with threats, and when we are talking about shifting from traditional to cloud, we also need to ensure about the how vulnerable our products and technologies are, and we also need to be careful for any kind of cyber attacks from any part of the world. So what possible measures can be taken to prevent such adversities?
Yeah, great question. And like I said, that is digital transformation, fueled, supported by data, fueled by AI, but secure to the core. That's required. And then, especially with the movement to remote working, sometimes use of personal devices for business-related work, this is only aggravating, right? And in fact, the number of security incidents has increased by almost 40%. And we recently announced the results of a global study where the financial impact of data breaches is almost $3.86 million per breach, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. And 80% of this incidents often relate to exposure of customers' data, right? So the impact and the action that one needs to do around security is very, very high. Okay? And since all of it is on the cloud, let's be more secure. So what are the few things companies can do around the security posture? First, of course, establishing a clear collaborative governance and culture, right? People work from home, customers work on their digital channels, vendors work with the end customer. So there has to be a collaborative governance and culture.
Yes.
For one. Next is we have to take a risk-based view to things. Different things will have different propensity to risk within the organization. So the risk analysis becomes more and more important. Okay, so the risk team, the CISO's jobs, that becomes extremely difficult. Strong access management, right? Earlier, inside the office, inside the four wall, access to applications, data, infrastructure was, sort of given. But now that access management becomes a big subject matter of its own. Okay. Then, of course, having the right tools to do all of that. Very importantly, automating the security process, because there's so much of security needs. Earlier, when you had 5 or 10 member team in security, today you might need 30, but you cannot afford so many people. So organization needs to automate security processes. And one very good way of achieving all of that is proactive simulations. And that is why, like IBM, we have a cybersecurity center in Bangalore, where we can actually have companies simulate and rehearse for various attacks. And you get your blind spot. So companies need to do this 5-6 pronged approach. It's almost like you were earlier rehearsing for a fire. You did fire drills, right? Companies got employees running out of the buildings. You almost need to do security drills now, right? And organizations like us provide that platform to help do that. So that's how I would say is the protection for security. And of course, at government level, we have a data security and all of that intervention is going on.
Right. So before I ask you about the new normal of working from home, how has it affected IBM's functioning, I would like to ask one thing: that have you seen any change in the trend where we find government bodies also relying on cloud technologies? Because when it comes to cloud, it's a matter of trust. Are we trusting the data? Are we believing that the data which is being hosted on the cloud, whether on premise or somewhere else, how especially government organizations are reacting to this?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say there is a huge shift in acceptance of this. Now, again, the use of cloud is not only at the data layer, right? Like this remote connectivity or storage and backup, right?
Yes.
Then you move to application and then the core of data. So at various levels, you start using cloud. Definitely at the bottom of the pyramid of infrastructure on cloud, storage on cloud, already adoption has happened this time around.
Okay.
Remote working, many private public sector organizations, government entities have taken to remote working. They're not afraid that when I'm having a call like this, somebody will capture the data or something. The inherent belief in the collaboration tools has been established. The highest end of the spectrum will be when they take their core applications to cloud. That we are getting there, but I would say that shift has definitely happened.
All right, great. So now coming to the question, how has the new normal of working from home has affected your organization's functioning, and how your workforce is reacting to the new normal?
Yeah. See, interestingly, remote working for IBM has been there for decades, right? And earlier it was provided as a personal flexibility to employees in times of need or to have a mobile workforce. But now it has become almost DNA. In India, 99% of our employees are working from home. Globally, high 90s is where people are working from home. So I guess it's become now a way of working rather than a flexibility option. That's one. And then we ourselves were really ready for this. I mean, we had a very reliable, secure network in place. We had great video conferencing facilities in place, virtual collaboration tools like Slack. We do all our stuff there. With clients, we do design thinking workshops using applications like Trello and Murals. So we have really taken to the water very easily. We're all swimming there. And a good part is we actually transport this experience to a customer very fast. And what was a way of working has become almost a knowledge sharing with clients, and that has really worked. And I think we will only expand on this journey.
Right. So I believe the COVID-19 has actually uh, allowed organizations and common people, common man across the world to you know uh, have the maximum of technologies and understand the maximum potential of available technologies around our atmosphere. So now, one more question I'd like to ask you before we formally end our conversation. How can MSMEs leverage technologies to become more productive and efficient in post-COVID?
Yeah, and I think MSMEs is a good topic because they're so important for our economy, and almost uh, uh, 24-25% uh, uh, contribution in the services in manufacturing we see there, and a lot of the export output comes from them, right? And we have about 60 plus million units, MSME units in the country, and they provide employment. I mean, almost 220, 130 million people. When we our employable force maybe how much, 500, 600 million, right? So such a huge employment out there. And the other thing is almost 20-25% of these MSMEs are in rural. So all of those really are a heady mix to the MSME challenge statement for us. And of course, now the liquidity crisis, and I know government is doing a lot about it. So I'll keep the financial stimulus, which is the banks are helping them. In terms of technology, for MSMEs, again, I see two things which can help, right? One is adopting a platform or marketplace-based approach, right? And the second is working with or as ecosystem partners. Remember, they can't do it on their own. They cannot buy a huge infrastructure on their own. So that's where the platform comes in. They cannot do everything end to end. So that's where the ecosystem partner comes in. So these are two big enablers for getting the MSMEs. Short examples of platforms. We already spoke about the skills build reignite. That's a education platform. So MSMEs can log on to take leverage of such platforms, and IBM is there. I know many of the other large MNCs are also giving education platforms to MSMEs. They should look at that. Second, I spoke about the Baroda Kisan Agri Digital Farmer Engagement Platform. So get into more of that, right? Healthcare, the iCure rural platform I talked about. So all of that, each MSME should look at what kind of platform system can I leverage, which is pre-built technology platforms.
Right.
The next one is about ecosystems, right? That is where, for example, we are talking of Industry 4.0, which is the end-to-end manufacturing process led with IoT and OT, right? And there, a small supplier with the MSME and the large manufacturer. So the small supplier actually goes and plugs into that framework. So it's an ecosystem partner, but both need each other. So that's the other thing, that ecosystem concept is where the MSMEs need to look at. As far as the government is concerned, again, we have seen the recent launch of Champion, right? It's an MSME platform. And then there the objective is to give financial and labor permissions. I think it talks about medical items and accessories. And of course, that platform is also to identify sparks, as they say, right? Those MSMEs, which given our Atmanirbhar concept, those MSMEs which can withstand the present and become big at national and international level. So I say that is where MSMEs should take comfort on and leverage it. So that's how I look at it. And netting it out, I would say there is this whole new world of learnings that we have got. We really need to leverage all of that learnings, make many of them permanent, and take the best lessons and create a big inclusive world. That's how I would sort of summarize this.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mohpatra. Really, we are glad that you shared all the insightful. It was a conversation. It was, and we, on behalf of Elastic Media, thank you for your time. 30 minutes, we have been able to complete our conversation. And we formally close here, and we would, of course, be in contact with IBM's and its top leadership team to seek insight into several other things in near future as well. So once again, thank you so much for your participation at the Let's Innovation Talks. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshul, and the entire Let's team. Nice talking. Thank you.
Thank you.